Okay, welcome everyone to the class today, Nyaya Sutras. This is the 22nd class that we are starting. And so we shall start from where we left off. But first we'll do the chanting. So I'll just share it on the screen. Start with the chanting first, right? Start. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrinvanutibhi Siddh Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so welcome everyone. We are starting the class on Nyaya Sutras. This is the 22nd in the series. So if you remember, I think there's been a long gap this time. So last class we were looking at Shabda. So Shabda we were looking at the sound part itself. Is it eternal or not? क्या शब्द नित्य है या नहीं है? So शब्द is nitya or not? So according to Nyaya, Shabda being a guna, being a property, it is considered as anityam because it comes and goes or it increases or decreases in intensity, right? So it's the same for all uh, the properties, all the five elements. So like in earlier we have seen in Vedanta also. So there we see Shabda as a guna, as a property of Akasha, space, right? So here also they take it in that way and they prove that Shabda is not Nityam, right? So in a way they say that at the unmanifest level, you can say it is Nityam, which was the argument all through towards the end. But once it is manifest, then you will have to accept it as anityam or temporary. And the argument given there was that when it is at the unmanifest level, it is indifferentiable from all the other elements. All the other elements at the unmanifest level are the same, right? It's difficult to separate them out because at the unmanifest level, they are all infinite. Or you can say they are one with the infinite source. So in this way, we understood this section about sound. So, but it is a very long argument. I will rush through the next few sutras, but you can, anything you want to dwell on or you want to ask more, you can always do that. But this next part is more about grammar. So till now, what we saw here was the shabda as a sound itself. But then sound itself is divisible into many letters, aksharam. So the nature of those letters, that is what is to be examined here, right? So earlier it was shabda as a guna, now shabda in its different forms. So as we know, in Sanskrit, every letter is considered indivisible. Aksharaha. Shara is something that can be split. Akshara, something that cannot be split. So that is why to chant any letter, any akshar, we write a small dash below it And so due to that, we say we can't chant it without adding a vowel to it. You need to add a vowel, mainly a, akar, with that so that you can chant it. So if it is ka, then ka is the sound, but with a halan. But actually, you are not saying ka. Whatever short form you said, you are actually there is an a sound associated with that. So this part, the next part is a lot about grammar. So I don't want to go too deep into, or I'll have to teach you the whole of Sanskrit grammar to make it clear for you. But we'll cover it in short. I'll try to keep it simple, right? So let us move on to the sutras. So we were on to the 34th sutra last time, the second chapter, part 2, 34th. So that is where we will start from today. So here, first we start with a little of what we saw in the last class about the eternality of sound, शब्द की नित्यता के ऊपर, whether sound is eternal or not. So that is being explained here. So 2 to 34. That is the next sutra we are taking up. So what does it say? Vinash karan anupalabdhe. Vinash karan anupalabdhe. So vinash is the destruction, karan is the cause, and anupalabdhe, it is not available for perception. So here what is being said simply is this. Some will say is eternal. Sound is eternal because we perceive no cause why it should perish. So because the cause of destruction of sound is not observed anywhere, so that is why we should think of it as eternal, right? So this is an argument that can be refuted, and the author does it in the next few sutras. So we are looking at it. So what basically what it's saying is, whatever is non-eternal, जो भी अनित्य है, that is always destroyed by some cause or the other. So that any other item, like if you say even a chemical, there is, then by providing it heat, you can split it up. So if there is water, right? So water by means of some reactions, you can combine it with other elements to form different other elements, right? Other compounds. So those compounds will be mixed. So if you are adding sodium, then it becomes sodium hydroxide. So in this way, if there is a current, there is a separate cause that is applied to it, then that cause becomes a reason for modifying that object, right? So here he says, Vinasha Karan Anupalabdhe, that we don't perceive anything that is destroying sound. So how can we say that it is not eternal? We say the opponent says that sound is eternal. Because whatever is non-eternal is destroyed by some cause. Sound, we do not observe any cause of destruction. Hence, sound is held by some to be not non-eternal, or you can say it eternal, right? So this one he has to refute in this sutra. So we go to the next one then, 35th, because this one is just the argument. You have to refute that. 35th. So, Ashravan Karan Anupalabdha. I'm splitting it up. It's written in a single sentence. Ashravan Karan Anupalabdha Tata Shravan Prasanga. So, Ashravan Karan Anupalabdha Satat Shravan Prasanga. So, one first argument is given there. The second and more potent argument will be given in the next sutra. But this one is the primary argument. So this one says, Ashravan Karan Anupalabdha. So if the reason for not hearing a sound is not available, so then what will happen? Satata Shravana Prasanga. If you are saying that there is no cause observed for sound that being destroyed, that means sound will persist. So there will be the case of Satata Shravana Prasanga. So if you are hearing a sound, it will not stop coming into your ear. It will continuously keep ringing in your ear. So any kind of sound that is directed at you, once you start hearing it, it will keep on continuing. It will not, because there is no Vinash Karan. There is no cause of destruction of the sound. So in that case, he's saying if it is eternal, then you will keep hearing a sound. So what will happen in the case of multiple sounds? In the case of multiple sounds, you will go crazy. All those sounds will keep ringing in your ears and you will not be able to stop them. It's like something out of a horror movie or something out of something out of some kind of some dream or weird imagination of ours, right? So that is something he says will happen. So if he says you are not accepting, then you will be caught in that horror movie. You will be a part of that, right? So ashravan karan anuplabdha, because there is because the cause of not hearing that that reason is not available. If that be the case, then what will happen? Satata shravana prasanga. So we will be caught up with continuous hearing, continuous audition. So constant audition is there, then we will really be in a fix, right? And so that is one reason why, even if the cause of destruction is not discerned, not seen, then you cannot say that sound is not destroyed, sound is eternal. And then into the next one, 36th sutra. So what does the 36th sutra say about sound? Uplabhyamane cha anuplabdhehe satvadana apadesha. So he says uplabhyamane. Now, let us say, according to your position, that sound is available for perception, then we say it is untenable. Why? Sha anuplabdehe satvadan abdesha. Because on the contrary, there is the perception of the cause of inaudition. There is a perception of the cause of it. So suppose that a sound is produced by an axe striking against a tree. So this sound will perish. Or you can say any other example, like if you are ringing a bell. So you ring the gong and the bell will start to ring and that bell will produce a sound, right? So in this way, one sound which is produced, you can observe clearly that whatever sound you produce, there is never a satata shravana. There is satvadan. There will be a decreasing of intensity of that sound, right? So there, if there is a decreasing, what does that mean? If there is sound is decreasing, that means it is changing, right? So it is changing. So anything that is changing in the universe, you can observe everything. Everything that you see is changing. At one time it will go on to destruction. So he says at one time that sound will meet some obstacle where it will stop. Like you can take the example of an arrow, right? So arrow hai, तीर हमने मारा, तीर हमने छोड़ दिया. We take an arrow and we have shot the arrow, right? So when we have shot the arrow will keep on going fast, then slow and slow, then slow and slowing down. Ultimately, it will hit some impediment. That impediment might be horizontal. There may be a wall where whenever it reaches, after that it will stop. Or it might be that when it exhausts its energy, then it will fall down to the ground. जमीन पे वो तीर गिर जाएगा. So there its speed is lost totally. It will come down to zero. So same way with sound also, initially it is produced, it is in a high intensity, then slowly it goes on down and down till it finally goes into unmanifestation. It is not available for perception. वो हमें सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, वो रह नहीं जाता है. So वहां sound नहीं है. There is no sound. You cannot prove it, right? So that is why he's saying that is one reason why sound is destroyed when it reaches some obstacle. So you cannot say it is not available. You cannot say it is eternal, because the first argument, what have we given? First argument we have given is that it will the sound there will be constant audition. लगातार गूंजती रहेगी वो आवाज, रुकेगी नहीं. It will keep on ringing in your ears, right? So then we look at the next sutra, 37th, right? So this is the 37th. So what does this say? Pani nimitta prashlesha shabda bhave nanuplabdhi. So if you split it up, pani is hand, nimitta being the cause. So hand being the cause, prashleshat, whatever is observed by, ringing something or beating something. Prashleshat, shabda abhave, that sound ceases to occur. Na anuplabdhi. So there is no availability of that sound, right? So that sound Well, what kind of sound? Like I said about the bell. So if you are ringing a bell, then initially there will be a sound. But there we are saying, you said earlier that there was no cause observed for the destruction of sound. So I'm giving you a direct cause, your own hand. So whenever you use it to ring a gong or bell, with your hand you can stop the ringing. You just hold on to the bell and it will suddenly stop ringing. Right? So there pani nimitt prashleshat शब्द अभावे न अनुपलब्धि. So because when the hand is put up for stopping the sound, then the sound no longer ceases to occur. It no longer ceases to be heard by ears. हमारे कानों से वो सुनाई नहीं देती है. So there also you can clearly see there is one reason where the sound we have observed to be stopped by a visible cause. जो दिख रहा है. We were accepting an invisible cause. The invisible cause is when due to friction by air, like an arrow stops. So similarly, by friction through air, the sound also stops. So there the reason is not perceptible to us. हवा हमें दिखती नहीं है. That gases are not observable. Even though you can condense and observe it under a microscope, but directly you cannot observe. So today's science has progressed to give us these kind of things. So in this way, he says that because through the hand we can stop the sound, right? So you cannot say that there is non-perception of the cause of cessation of sound, because we actually perceive that by the contact of our hand we can stop the sound of a gong, this is what is given here, right? So we then go on to the next sutra, 38. So what does this say? विनाश कारण अनुपलब्धेः च अवस्थाने तत् नित्यत्व prasanga. So he says vinash karan anuplabdhi. Let us say something for which there is a cause for destruction. So vinash karan anuplabdhi avasthane tan tat nityatvam prasanga. So if tat nityatvam prasangam is there is a cause for the observing the eternality of something. So we call a thing eternal if it continues to exist, and if we cannot perceive any cause why it should cease. So he says sound, he will say, does not continue to exist, and its cause of cessation is also perceived. Hence, sound is not eternal. Right? So there we are giving a further argument that sound we always observe that it will cease to be experienced. So if it is something that is ceasing to be experienced, then you have to accept that because of its ceasing to be experienced, it has gone into unmanifest, and so that is why you can never say it is nitya, it is eternal. This is just an extension of the previous sutra's explanation, right? 38. Then we go on to the next one. This one I'm going through quickly. It's very simple, nothing very complicated here. So we can just look through it. So now, here there is a point that we have to consider, which will be brought up in the next sutra. So what is being said here? Vinasha karan anuplabdhe. So sometimes there is something that is visible, which we have seen in the case of a hand, which can stop a sound. But sometimes that thing is not visible. So in that case, there can be another argument. So that also we refute. So what does it say? 39th. 2 to 39. Aspashatvad pratishedah. So he says the substratum of sound is intangible. That is no counter argument, right? So just a continuation again of the previous one. Say what is being said here? Aspashatvad, something that we cannot touch. That means we cannot directly perceive, right? Like air, it is said to have the quality of sparsha, but we cannot see with our eyes. So asparsha is considered those entities that are subtler than the one which with form. So which is the element which has form? Anyone can tell? रूप किसका होता है? कौन से तत्व का होता है? फ्रॉम तत्वबोध. शब्द, स्पर्श, रूप, रस, गंध. रूप इज प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ विच एलिमेंट? फॉर्म.
Fire.
Fire, right, very good. Right? So for Agni has the quality of the guna of Rupam, the form. So anything that is subtler than Agni. So that constitutes the two other elements. Which are the two others? Vayu and Akash. So all both of these are considered in the category of asparsha. So these are not visible. So both these elements are considered asparsha. So because of those that are in asparsha, though not seen, you cannot say that the substratum of sound or the basis of sound is intangible. So that is not an argument. So earlier what he has said is that because the cause for destruction of sound is not available, that means cause sound is nityam. That was the argument. So he says that is not an argument, right? Because even with the case of an arrow, we see even when the cause is not visible, we are seeing that there is some subtle force that is stopping the arrow. So today's language, we use it friction. We call it friction, right? So that is so in those days that term was not used. So just said because of course they use gharshan. The word was there, but here they have not used that word, right? So sound, it for its substratum, it does not have any of the tangible substances like earth, water, fire, and air. So its substratum is akasha. The akash is the tattva that holds the sound, right? So because of that, even sound can be produced even in a vacuum. But because there is no air to carry the sound, air nahi hai wahan, air is not there. So that is why you cannot perceive it. But still it is there. You can in fact test it by keeping a vacuum gap, and there is a sound produced at one end. Then at the other end also that sound will be produced after some time, because that even though that vacuum will not carry the sound, but the sound will travel through the walls of any enclosure, and it will reach there finally. So so that asparsha is, he's saying it is not an argument. So it is, if you see otherwise also, it is a very peculiarity of sound that it cannot, coexist with any of the other gunas. The color, if you are talking about shabda, then sparsha, rupa, ranga, rasa. None of these, they can exist together. So it has unique existence, right? So in this way, sound has to be understood as uh, beyond sparsha, asparsha, and that we say is not an argument for it being eternal. So we'll move on to the next sutra. So vibhakti antar upapattehe cha samase. So he says sound cannot be supposed to co-abide with other qualities, for there are varieties of it. So for this, I'll have to give you a short introduction. You would know about it, but it's a very simple one about the sounds in Sanskrit, right? So what are these sounds? So if you are looking at all the basic sounds in Sanskrit, we split them into two. There are the varna and the uh, the consonants and the vowels. I split it, say it in English, right? So वहाँ पे वो दो तरह के होते हैं. So whenever we are using those varnas, those different letters in the Sanskrit alphabet, then if we are combining any two words, then there is a function that happens which we call sandhi. Two sounds, two words get together, and then there is a sandhi, there is a joining of the letters. So in that joining, there are two rules basic. One is the varna, the actual letters that are there, the consonants, they usually do not vary much. There is variation, of course, but they don't vary much. But major variation is seen in the case of the vowels, right? So due to sandhi, there is a change in the vowel. What happens is, we in Sanskrit, we observe a natural process. How is it happening? How when we speak two words together, then what is the change in our pronunciation of that word? So if we say Ram Gachati, So there is an akar in Rama and there is an akar in Ga. So Rama Gacchati. So keep saying together. It will become Rama Gacchati. That is the sound which naturally will come out. So A plus A will become A. That sound. These are the simple ones. E plus E will become E, badi. So in this way, these sounds will exist. But there are further rules. Like if you say there is something with an ending with an E and then beginning with a U. So in that case, what will happen is whenever there are two vowels like ikar and akar, then the sound that is produced is called ya. A ya sound is produced. So if it is nadi and then uttar. So if you say nadi uttar, we keep pronouncing it together. Nadi uttar, nadi uttar, nadi uttar. Ya sound will come, right? Ya sound will come. So here what is happening is that e sound is being changed into ya, right? So there is a change in the basic sound. So here we are discussing what is the change about, right? So what is the rule we say about the varnas? We say that we cannot, they are each akshara. हर जो वो है वो separate है. They have a separate existence. They cannot be combined unless we use a vowel. If we use a vowel, still the original character of that letter will remain. So akshar will remain. You cannot change a letter. So when in the sandhi, but when we are doing a sandhi, we say there are two kinds of changes that happen. One is we call vikar. Something changes. One thing changes to another. This thing Nyaya is saying is wrong. There is no vikar. He says there is what we call adesha. So one letter is simply being substituted by another. That is the position of Nyaya. It is accepted by all Vyakaran also, all grammar also, right? So we are not going too deep into that, but basically he's saying if there is E plus U, then the rule is ya. So E is being replaced by ya because that U will remain. Nadi plus uttar, nadyuttar, U will remain. So it is not E and U combining to make a ya. So E is replaced by ya. That is the position of Nyaya. So he says there will be what the term for that is used is called Adesha. So it is not Vikaraha, it is Adesha. So that is the rule in Panini grammar. When we say that something is some word is being modified, then if one letter is being substituted by another, then we say usme ye Adesh hai. Adesh is an order. So that is an order that is being performed. So here he is saying basically that in the combination of two words, the letters will combine together to form an adesha and not a vikara. There will not be a vikara. So how does it go? Let us see in the sutra itself. So vibhakti antar upapatte cha samase. So basically what is the objector saying? That when there vibhakti, sound cannot be supposed to co-abide with other qualities, for there are varieties of it. So if there is any tangible substance, then it will have different qualities. Every object has different gunas, right? Those gunas will depend on the subtlety of that object, right? So if it is solid, then it has all the five gunas. If it is akasha, it has only one guna. So every object will have different gunas in there. So out of these gunas, if we suppose that sound, it abides with one or more of these qualities in a tangible substance. Let us say that sound is there in a tangible substance and there are other gunas also. But we think that sound is of only one kind. So if sound is of one kind only, then it will not be able to abide with all of those other qualities. Why? Because then sound, he says, it is unalterable. You cannot change it. So what is the argument given here is that he is saying basically that when you are there is a sound, then it is living, it is existing inside a particular material. Then if sound were to be of not to be of different kinds but only one kind, then sound would have to live separately from that object, because every object has its unique property, right? So in this way, he says that sound basically is has to have some kind of modification. It has to have the ability to modify, then only it can attach itself to other objects, right? So that is the argument given. So we'll look at the next part. So what about how do we understand it as a vikara? So vikara, desh updeshat sanshaya. So from the injunction about modification and substitution, there arises doubt. So so if we are looking at any kind of conjunction of words, so here an example is given, you can read here. The word dadhi conjoined with the word atra becomes dadhyatra by the rule of Sanskrit grammar. So looking at dadhi atra and dadhyatra, we notice that the I in the former is replaced by a Y. So some say that I undergoes modification as Y. Others says that Y comes as substitute for I. So consequently, we are thrown into a doubt whether letters really undergo modification or take up substitutes, right? So here the doubt that needs to be resolved, the doubt that needs to be resolved is if there is a joining of two sounds, two words, then there is a change in the letters in between. Then is that change in the form of a vikar or is it in the form of an adesh? Vikar, Adesh, Updeshat, Sanshay. There is a doubt whether it is a Vikar or Adesh. So Vikar is a modification that we say I is changing into Y. Clear? Vikar is a modification. And Adesh is a replacement where we are saying that if there is no modification, I is simply being replaced by Y. So the I, actually you are reading it as I. So in Sanskrit we are reading, it will be the Ikar. And Ikar and Yakar. So E and Ya. So E will change into Ya. So what are we discussing is which of these is supposed to be correct? Does the E change into Ya or does the E get replaced by Ya? What is the position I told you about Nyaya? Nyaya is E is being replaced by Ya. Right? So we are into the 42nd sutra. So Prakriti Vivriddho Vikar Vivriddhe. So he's saying if there is an increase, Vriddhi. So if Prakriti is by a natural cause. So if there is if the letters undergo modification by a natural cause, then Vikar Vivriddhe, then that the object that is being changed into, it will also increase in size. Vikar also will vivrid. So what are we basically saying is that if you are saying that there is the case of a double vowel, there is an ikar which is a dirgh ikar. Then dirgh ikar is again if it is followed by ukar, then also it will be ya. So we are saying here is that if you are saying that there is a vikar, right? So in the vikar, what will happen? I'll just explain with an example. I'll just remove this from the screen. So if you are saying there is a vikar, आप कह रहे हो vikar हो रहा है. So then what will happen is you are changing 1 liter of milk into 1 kg of curd, roughly you can say, roughly, huh? Or if you take it both in weight terms, 1 kg of curd will change into 1 kg, 1 kg of milk will change into 1 kg of curd, right? So that will be in the case of vikar, modification. दही दूध से दही बन रही है, विकार हो रहा है.
हाँ, लेकिन वेट में फर्क आ जाएगा.
वेट से मतलब वेट में ऐसे फर्क नहीं आएगा. वेट में फर्क तब देयर विल बी अ चेंज इन वेट if something extra is being added there, right? So sometimes some gas is combined in that way. Otherwise, basically, if it is 1 kg of milk, it will change into 1 kg of curd. So that is a general law of conservation of mass. We know it will never be changing, right? So according to that, so milk is changing. So whatever quantity you are taking in the beginning, whatever mass will change into the same mass. So that is in the case of vikar. But if it's the case of replacement, what will happen? I will tell someone, okay, you take, I will tell the halwai, the one who makes dahi, I'm giving you 2 liters of milk. So, because you have some labor charge for that, you charge some labor for that. So you can give me 1.5 kilo curd for that. That I will pay for it. So that is a vikar, that is a adesh, a replacement. So in that the change can happen. Say change can be both ways. It can be less or more. So इस तरह से विकार और आदेश का अंतर है. So here we say is even in the case of a double e or a double u, both will change into ya only. So there the case is of adesh and not of vikar. There is basically a replacement of the e by a ya and not a change of e into ya, modification, right? In some places we say that why the ya sound is a semi vowel and is composed of e plus a. That argument is there, but according to Nyaya, this is not correct. There is basically a replacement, right? I hope it's clear this by this example. Manisha, George, why it should be a vikara? It should not be a vikara and a adesha. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move into the rest of the argument, right? Anything echo someone on? You want to say something?
Uh, like, are you discussing or like, are you reading a?
No, we are doing a class on where we are teaching about Nyaya, which is the form of Indian logic. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I guess you are joining in the middle, so maybe you would have missed the previous classes. We are into the 22nd class. So basically, we are discussing about letters. So letters in Sanskrit, the letters which we call varna, they are called akshara, not to be split. They cannot be split. So in the joining of these letters, is there a modification or is there a replacement? So that is the argument being discussed here, right? So any other question you want to ask?
Yeah, like one questions that I have is that like,
Mhm.
why does it need to attach Indian to the logic? Because logic is just a logic. It's not like Hindu logic, Islamic logic, Christian logic.
Yes, that I'll tell you.
Logic, that logic.
Yes, why we have put it this way? Because if you are studying Western logic, then there are certain treatises by which they name that. So here we are teaching. Okay, okay, so why we use the term Indian logic? It is not Indian logic. It is a shastra, Nyaya. Nyaya is a Nyaya.
Now it is.
So can you hear me? Okay, so this is just to attract attention. It is not that there is an Indian logic or a foreign logic, but there is a book, there is a darshan shastra in Indian systems. In Indian systems, there are 6 darshan shastras, the 6 sciences. So out of that, one is Nyaya Sutras, right? So Nyaya Sutras is a Indian text of logic. So that is why it is Indian logic. And in it, there will be a lot of different arguments that are there normally present in Western logic. So in Western logic, I think he left already. So just come to create a argument.
Yeah.
So it's nothing Hindu logic or Muslim logic. It's Indian logic means the Nyaya Sutras that we are discussing, which is an Indian knowledge system, IKS we call them in short. So in the IKS, in the Indian knowledge systems, we have 6 darshan shastras, 6 philosophies, out of which one of them is Nyaya, right? So let's move on to the next sutra, right? Prakriti Vivriddho Vikar Vivriddhe we discussed last. So that is the 42nd. So now we go on to the 43rd. So 43rd, what does it say? 2 to 43, second chapter, second part, 43. न्यून सम अधिक उपलब्धे विकार anu mahetu. The four, so someone says nyuna is less, sama is equal, Adhik is more. So he says the foregoing argument some say is futile because we find modifications less than, equal to, or greater than the original material. So he's not accepting that in the modification it has to be equal. He's saying there may be something less or something more. So what kind of that is there? So he says the bulk of a modification, the mass, it does not correspond to the bulk of the original material. Example, the thread is of less bulk than the cotton, which is original material. A bracelet is equal in bulk to the gold from which is made. A banyan tree is greater in bulk than the seed. So here we are saying about a modification that involves addition or subtraction of other objects, right? That is the argument he's given. Our argument is that if you are doing a modification, then the modification should consider the original object only and what it is modified into. जो हमारे पास है उसको हमने बदल के किस में बनाया, right? So in that way you have to understand that logic, right? But the objector is saying that in the case of a modification, there might be something that is less than the original object. There's something where it might be equal and some it might be more. So in less is saying is that from the cotton you are producing a thread which is less. So what is happening there? The mass is actually the same. Mass is the same, but you're just reducing the volume, right? The weight is the same. So whatever weight of thread you use, it will be used to produce similar weight of the weight of the cotton will be equal to the weight of the thread. So if you're using a big ball of cotton and from that you're producing a very small ball of thread, so that does not mean that the weight has reduced. Just the volume has been compressed into a smaller size. So that is the change. So there is a change in the density. So we know this by modern science, right? And then in the case of the same volume remaining, he is giving the example of gold producing an ornament. So there, of course, we agree, no problem there. And then he's giving the case of increase, where the seed is producing a banyan tree. So in that case, what is happening? The seed is, of course, producing a banyan tree, but the seed has the potential of the banyan tree existing within it. It has a blueprint inside it of a banyan tree. But from that blueprint, it will produce the tree. But can it produce the tree without the 5 elements? Can you put a seed into a concrete base and expect it to grow? No. You will need to provide to it the soil, the material. So there an addition is there. There is not a single cause from which the tree is emerging. It is emerging from multiple causes. So that is the argument is given by the person, but it is not a correct argument. So this is explained in the next one. Na tulya prakriti nam vikar vikalpa. So tulya prakriti nam, you have to take equal cause for giving this kind of argument. He says na tulya prakriti nam vikar vikalpa. Then only you can say that there is a vikara, there is a change which is causing a increase or decrease in the size of the materials. So in this way, na tulya prakriti nam vikar vikalpa. So modification may not correspond in bulk to the original material, only if the original materials are different. You are using more than one material, right? So in that case, there may be a change. Or you are using one material that is being compressed in volume. So in both of these cases, there is a change in the object where the mass is changed. So mass is actually not changed. In the first example where the cotton and the thread is being mentioned, there the volume is changing. And in the third example, where the tree and the seed are being mentioned, there more than one causes are being observed. There is not just a single cause, there is more than one cause. So all of these examples given are not fitting into the correct logic. Na tulya prakriti nam vikar vikalpat. So for making any kind of comparison about for a modification, on both sides you have to balance the equation, right? So in chemistry or in science, we do a balancing of the equation. So if you are taking any two reactants on the left side and then on the right side, you have to balance the quantity. Then only you will call it an equation. Otherwise, it will not be an equation, right? So you have to balance the mass on both sides. So in some cases, you are finding that two reactants are combining to produce something of lesser mass. Then you have to check clearly there something might be produced that is in the form of a undetectable element, like it might be in the form of a gas, right? So in this way, whenever we check, if we keep any two reactants in a closed container where nothing can escape, then they, even after the new reaction has happened, they have changed into different materials, like we are mixing a acid and a base. So sodium hydroxide plus hydrochloric acid. So that will produce sodium chloride, that is salt plus water. So in this case, the reactants are producing totally different things. But if there is a change in the weight, then only you will say. But for both sides to produce the same weight, you will just balance the nutrients. Otherwise, what will happen is some of the reactant will get left out. Right. So if sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid, you need of obviously one unit. But in the case of other uh, other acids and bases, you might need different quantities. So the whole of it will not react, right? So if you are using like 10 grams of sodium chloride, sodium hydroxide, and 20 grams of acid, then the acid will remain in the final mixture. Whole of the acid will not react. And so that is the comparison we say is being made here. That when we are saying about tulya jati, so two materials are being used to produce another object, then we have to take both of them together and then deduce that the weight has changed or not. And we will always find it is a law of nature. So this one has been shown in the Nyaya Sutras. This has been proved in modern science also, that there is a law of conservation of matter. So using that same law, we use it for Shabda also. The letters also, we say letters similarly, they can not be modified, they can only be replaced. So in this way, we'll go on to the next sutra. Sutra Agla. 44 we have done. I am going very quickly through this because this is not a very serious topic. So if there is anything you don't understand, you can ask me later on, right? So we are into the 45th sutra now. 45वां. द्रव्य विकारे वैषम्यवत वर्ण विकार विकल्प. So the objection, another objection is being raised. Obviously, what does it say? There is, the objector says, difference between a letter and its modification as there is between a substance and a modification. So dravya vikare, dravya is something, any element. So in any element, that is dravya vikare, any element that is modified. So vaishamyavad. So there is a difference. What is the difference? Vaishamya, difference. Vaishamyavat, vikar vikalpa. There is a difference between a substance and its modification. So just like there is a, he says that if you are saying that E plus A becomes Y, so in any kind of modification of any element, then what happens is in that modification becomes totally different. One element will become totally different, and it will become, it produce something else. So just in the case of some milk will produce curd. So he says, what about we say that in this way that that Eve has become a year. It is a vikara, but totally change the character of that object. So what is the explanation for that? He says in the next sutra, 46th. Na vikara dharma anupapatte. He says that it is not so because the character of a modification does not exist. So modification, what is a modification? A modification must be of the same nature with the original material, though the former may not correspond in bulk to the latter. So a bracelet is no doubt a modification of gold or silver, but a horse is not a modification of a bull. Similarly, Y, which is a semi-vowel, is not a modification of E. Ya is not a modification of E, which is a full vowel. So we are taking this in the case of the two vowels. E plus U. E plus U are producing Ya. So he says, just like in the case of if we say gold is being changed into an ornament, right? So in that, what is happening is, does the gold disappear after the change? No, the gold always remains there, right? So you can perceive the gold is present even though it is in the form of a different ornament. But if you are taking a bangle and from it you are producing an earring, then that is different thing. Sure. Right? But this is not in the case of the vowels. You have initially you have an E, and next after modification you have a ya, which are totally different. So this is not a modification like that of gold into ornament. This modification is like this is not a modification. This is a replacement where E is being replaced by ya. So in this way, you cannot say that it is like a modification of gold or silver, right? So that is the difference. Okay, so if we can, you can use this for you can use different example for this. You can use like mud. You can from mud you can produce different kinds of utensils. Huh? You can produce an image, murti. You can produce a vessel. You can produce a spoon and so on. So in this way, there the original substance is always available. Right? But in the case of changing of the vowel, E to ya, the E will not be available to you. E is not available. So it is not a vikar. He's saying it is not a vikar, it is not a modification, it is a replacement. So next. Last one. So, what is the basic difference between a modification and a adesh? So here is saying vikar praptana punar avrite. So what is something that has gone into modification? It does not again return to its original form. That is the definition of vikara. Okay, so vikar praptanam punar avrita. As something that has gone modification, it does not return to its original form. So again, we are taking the example here. Milk, it is modified into curd, right? Or if you take any chemical reaction, like we saw sodium hydroxide mixing with an acid like hydrochloric acid, so it will change into sodium chloride. So the original two elements have gone; they have changed into a totally new different element. That is where we say there is a total modification. So milk is modified into curd. So there what happens is the reaction is irreversible. So from the curd you cannot get back the curd that from the curd you cannot get back the milk, right? So the same thing happens in the case of the vowels. That is our argument. That is the argument that once the sandhi has happened, you cannot split it and get from the ya you cannot get back the I. E. So ya will remain, right? So once the sandhi has happened, the ya will remain. If you are doing again the sandhi vigraha, then you are just using the original sandhi rule to get back the letter, right? But the ya you cannot change back. Just like when we are quickly pronouncing the two letters and we get the E plus U, we are pronouncing quickly together, then we get the ya sound. But if you are, once we have pronounced the ya, we cannot expand it slowly to form those two separate sounds, right? So in this way, we are saying that once the ya has been formed, then it cannot be reconstituted back into E plus U, right? So in this way, basically we are saying is all the varnas, all the letters in the Sanskrit language, they have their own separate existence. Whenever a combination happens, then there is a change. That change is not in the form of a vikara or a modification, but that is in the change of a adesh or a substitution. So that is what is being discussed here. So this is the part where we understand about that. So time is almost up, but quickly wind up the last sutra because this is related to the previous one. otherwise we'll have a gap. So he says, Suvan Adinam Punar Apattehe Hetu. Punar Punah Apattehe Hetu. So some say that this is untenable because golden ornaments again may be converted into their original forms. So he says that when you are talking about a gold and its ornament, then the ornament can be converted back into gold. But you have understood earlier also that this is not the correct argument, because in the case of gold and ornament, the gold is always there. The gold had never become something else. So there is not something is not being modified. It's just a change of shape, right? So here he says the golden bracelet is converted into a mass of gross gold, which again will be modified into a bracelet. So this, according to this theory, is saying that the I and E and Y are vikara. So he quickly answers that by the argument that vikarana suvarna bhava vyatireka. So this analogy we say is inapt because the modification of gold do not relinquish the nature of gold. Whatever the ornament, they will retain the nature of gold. The properties of gold, the luster of gold, they will all be retained in that gold, unless there is a mixing. That again is a modification. So there we are not talking about. So when we are talking about gold being converted into ornament and then ornament being converted back into gold, there the quality, the dharma of gold, we said dharma and dharmi. Dharma is the quality and dharmi is the one holding the quality. So that dharma, it persists throughout all the ornaments, whatever different ornaments are made. So there, the changing of these two letters is not comparable or to with that of the changing of gold into ornaments, right? So this is the argument that is given here, right? So in this way, basically, as we've seen all through the argument, what he's tried to prove is that the varnas, whenever they combine together in sandhi, there is a modification, there is a change. That in that change, a new letter comes in. That new letter is a substitution, an adesha, and not a vikar or a modification. Right? There are a few more verses on this, sutras on this, that will continue in the next class. So, any questions or any doubts about today's class? Anyone wants to ask? Manisha, all fine? George?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have any questions at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay. Anyone on Clubhouse? Okay, then we'll wind up the class for today. Thank you all so much for coming. So nice to have you all. We hope to meet you again next class. So let's wind up for today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Chalo. Manisha, George, thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week ahead. Hope to see you
Thank
in the
you.
next class.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, both of you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, beta.